Welcome. The topic for today is classroom physical structure. Physical structure refers to the actual layout or surroundings of a person's environment. In planning for individual students, you will need to consider all possible settings in which the student may need support. These settings may include home, school, community, or maybe even a work environment. To provide physical structure in the classroom, you need to think about the way each area is set up to support learning and attention. The physical boundaries are clearly defined and usually include areas for activities like work, play, snack, music, and transitioning. These areas can be defined differently in middle school and high school and include other age appropriate activities. Some examples of areas you may want to include in middle school and high school could be daily living areas, recreation skill areas, leisure skill areas, perhaps even work areas. Furniture and material are used to provide boundaries and help to define what activities will take place in each area. Physical structure provides increased organization for students and helps everyone to understand what activities are occurring in each area of the classroom at any given time. A well-designed classroom environment also helps to minimize distractions and support positive behavior outcomes for students. Let's take a look at the physical layout and boundaries of this airport. The airport has physical boundaries that identify spaces. Upon entering the space, guests can identify where they need to be based on physically designed walkways. Environmental arrangement and signs within the space are used to identify the activities that are taking place in each area. For example, security, check-in, and baggage claim. In the classroom, just like the airport, the more the space is defined by the physical structure and visual cues, the less dependent we are on others to gain information. The physical structure provides the information we need to function more independently within the environment. You can set the physical space in your classroom to support independence, minimize distractions, and increase attention to the task or activity in each area. The TEACH program describes 3 key steps to use as you set up your classroom learning environment. The first step is to set up key areas of the classroom based on the curriculum. You will then use the furniture and materials to help define the boundaries for each of these areas. The final step in designing the physical structure is to add contextual clues to provide the general idea of what is expected in each space. The steps will be broken down in detail in the following slides. To develop and design key areas, you will need to look at critical activities that will take place within the classroom. These areas and activities are dictated by the needs of the student who will be served in the space and their structured curriculum requirements. Although the students and schedules may fluctuate and change from year to year, or maybe even over time, the need for some key areas will remain the same. The area may include space for small and whole group instruction, one-to-one instruction, independent work areas, play leisure, sensory areas, computer technology center, transition area, snack, as well as other areas. Visualize your classroom while considering student needs. What physical areas would you like to create? You will want to consider the student schedules, activities, and curriculum to help determine which areas will be the most meaningful for setup and design. You may also want to consider the materials you have available to create the space. Once you've determined the key areas you want to create in the classroom, you'll need to consider the materials you have available or will need to design the space. To segment the classroom into meaningful parts for each activity, begin by using the natural boundaries of the space and then arrange the furniture to block off specific areas. Tables, bookshelves, cubicles, and partitions can be used to divide or segment the space. Floor coverings such as carpet tile, rugs, or even tape on the floor may be added to help further define each area. Finally, given the limited space in many classrooms, some areas may need to be used for more than one purpose. For example, the kidney table could be used for small group reading in the morning and used for snack activities in the classroom when a tablecloth is placed on the table as a visual cue. By defining the different areas through shelves and partitions, students are better able to recognize where activities take place and where they are supposed to be at any given time. Use furniture, floor covering, color coding, pictures, and signs to help create those boundaries and identify which locations serve which function. Remember, when designing your classroom, it is important to ensure that all areas of your room are visible and can be supervised by adults at all times. This is an example of an elementary special education classroom layout. Notice the areas are clearly segmented for each key activity that will occur within the classroom environment. This is an actual photo of the workstation located in the lower right-hand corner of the elementary layout on the previous slide. The blue chair is the teacher chair and the red chair is the student chair. The yellow chair is just a visual reminder that the student needs to stay seated while working. The desk is moved aside for the student to get into his workspace. Based on the level of physical structure in this photo, what do you know about the student? Pause the video and think about that for a second. This is a photo of a student's independent workstation shown in the elementary example above. This student is a higher functioning student who travels a great deal throughout the day. He needed to be reminded to stay in his work area, so the picket fence is there only as a visual reminder. Just a special note, the fence does not have hinges, nor does it have a latch. The student manipulates the fence back and forth. So the student simply sets the fence aside when he is finished working, and then when he wants to go into the workstation also, he sets it aside himself. So one thing to note is that the student's primary reinforcer is computer time. So the teacher had to rearrange the environment so the computer was easily accessible to the student. You will note on the elementary layout, as previously shown, the computer is located on the left side of the workstation. So now that we've discussed elementary, let's talk a little bit about high school examples. And you're welcome to pause the video if you'd like, but this is just an example of a high school layout and how it might look differently in a high school or maybe even a middle school as opposed to that elementary school setting. Very often when planning physical structure for students, we fail to consider that a student may need a highly physically structured environment not only in the resource setting but also in that general education setting. On the slide, you'll see an example of how the general education teacher and the special education teacher can work together to develop individualized workspaces for students that can also be used as appropriate for peers. The following were considerations for this classroom layout. So in this particular case, look at the gray student desk. So this is a work area for the targeted student during whole class instruction. Also notice it's located near the door in case the student needs to take a break. Also, you'll notice that there's 4 additional workstations, and those workstations are lined up on the wall for use by the targeted student as well as other students who might need additional structure to focus. Also, there's a one-to-one instructional table for teachers to work with a student or maybe multiple students at another location. Once the space is designed and physical boundaries are created, students must be taught to stay within the boundaries during designated activities. Teaching strategies could include modeling, reinforcement, or corrective feedback. Use these steps to teach boundaries within the space. Notice the use of dividers to clearly segment the space. The areas are well organized and designed to reduce distractions. This is a typical left to right workstation for students that can be used for one-to-one instruction and independent work. Thanks to Henderson County Schools for use of this photo. In this example, you can see how the teacher used individual desks that have been pushed together to create a whole group instructional area. An area for computers and technology is also visible against the wall and facing away from the group area to reduce distraction. Partitions are used in the corner to create a sensory space that students may access upon request. The divider is easily opened at the corner to allow for entry. This is an important note. Keep in mind that this space would remain open during use in order to maintain visual supervision. In this example, the kitchen snack area is clearly defined by the natural boundaries of the snack bar. A half door was installed to support safety measures, only allowing entry to the cooking environment during scheduled activities. Tape can be used on the floor to outline boundaries for students who have difficulty staying within the designated areas. This small group instructional area doubles as a snack table in the afternoon. The materials on the table define which activities will occur throughout the daily schedule. Once the spaces have been developed, the last step is to add contextual cues to provide information about what will take place in each area. You may help provide cues by using materials to define the space. For example, the appliances and furniture help define what takes place in the kitchen area. The toys define the play activity in the structured play area. The circle time rug, the bulletin board, or smartboard activities help define circle time area. It is a good idea to add signs to identify each area. This supports both student and adult understanding of what takes place in each area. Labeling, highlighting, and color coding could also be used to provide information about the activity. This is an example of how a teacher defines specific work area boundaries for her students on the table during small group instruction. Notice the names written in with dry erase markers on the desk. Also, notice the tape to section off the work areas. When designing the physical setup of the classroom and developing specific areas for instruction, take into consideration the items contained within the slide, such as the grade of the student and the age of the student. You may wish to pause the video to review the points contained within the slide.